During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Yeah, unroll your windows. No, you're just right inside. Let's go.
The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted.
This is what it looks like when the federal government tries to win the narrative faster than it can establish the facts, and a man ends up dead in the street. The Department of Homeland Security says a man approached Border Patrol with a handgun, violently resisted, and an agent fired defensive shots. But the bystander video does not show a weapon, and officials have not answered whether that gun was ever brandished. So here's the question. Why are officials speaking in absolutes when the evidence the public can see doesn't match the certainty? This is Raw America. My name is Michael St. Gregory. Don't expect any jokes tonight on this one, everyone. This story is about state power and narrative control. Because once an agency can say self-defense, flash a photo of a gun, and move on before an independent investigation even has time to breathe, the rest of us are living under a system where the press release is treated like a verdict. And that's not politics as sport. That's life and death. Here's the culture part. Officials are using the language of certainty, defensive shots, maximum damage, massacre law enforcement, while the public video creates immediate and obvious doubt. Here is the consequence. Minneapolis is now again in a pressure cooker. Another killing, protests, tear gas, and basic questions about who controls the scene and the evidence. And here's why you should care even if you hate politics. If the government can write the story first, your rights come second, because the story decides what gets investigated, who gets blamed, and whether accountability ever arrives. So stay with me on this one, because the most damning part is this. This isn't the first time Minneapolis has watched officials claim one thing while video suggests another. In fact, it hasn't even been a month. A U.S. Border Patrol agent fatally shot a man in Minneapolis during this immigration enforcement surge. It's the second such incident this month tied to immigration operations. The man has been identified by family as Alex Jeffrey Preddy, 37 years old, an ICU nurse. He was a U.S. citizen. He was born in Illinois, and his family says he had no criminal record beyond traffic issues. Now here's the official version. The Department of Homeland Security says agents were conducting a targeted operation. They claim Preddy approached with a 9mm handgun. They claim he resisted disarmament. They claim an agent fired defensive shots. They also framed it as someone seeking maximum damage. All of that language matters because it's not just describing an event. It's attempting to pre-decide motive in public in real time. Here's what the public can evaluate right now. The videos that are available everywhere. The bystander video does not show a weapon, and officials still won't clearly answer whether a gun was brandished at any point. The footage that's been described shows a chaotic confrontation, shoving, people embracing, the man appearing to hold up a phone. Officers surround him, strikes with a canister-like object, then shots, multiple shots, while officers are on top of him, are fired. Now, I'm going to be very careful here. We describe what's reported as visible. We do not declare final conclusions before an investigation, but we also do not pretend that this is normal. If the public video doesn't clearly support the certainty of the official claim, the job of the serious institution is to slow down, preserve evidence, and submit to oversight, not go full confidence in the first wave of statements. Now the fallout.
There was a intense back and forth, tear gas, flashbangs, ice being thrown over and over and over again. They've left, followed by local law enforcement, but it's 5 below, and there are still hundreds of people on the street here where the shooting happened and the surrounding intersections.
Protests have erupted. The scene turned volatile. Federal agents deployed tear gas as crowds grew, and you can see the political fracture widening in real time. The mayor called for an immediate end to the operation. He asks, how many more residents, how many more Americans need to die?
This should be of deep concern for you, no matter what town you're in America, because your town could be next. Your liberties, your freedoms could be sacrificed because of what this administration is doing.
Meanwhile, Trump accused local leaders of inciting insurrection. That's not just rhetoric. That's a strategy. That is a shift of the story from why did federal agents kill someone to why are locals causing trouble? And here's where this becomes institutional and not personal. If your enforcement model repeatedly generates mass unrest, unclear uses of force, and conflicting public narratives, the model is the problem. And this isn't only about protests on your phone. Everyday life gets disrupted. Businesses lose money. People stay home. The city becomes a stage for federal escalation. Here's the part that should stop everyone in their tracks. Local officials say they have limited information. But the Department of Homeland Security is already telling America exactly what happened.
During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject.
But let's zoom out, because the most serious context is the pattern. Earlier this month, another Minneapolis fatal shooting involving an ICE officer produced a similar clash between official claims and video analysis. So this is not an isolated PR mistake. It's becoming a cycle, a lethal incident, an immediate official narrative of justification. Video emerges and complicates or undermines certainty. Public trust collapses further. Enforcement intensifies anyway. And every time that cycle repeats, you're training the public to believe the government is not seeking truth. It's seeking control. So what should happen next if we're serious? An independent investigation with real jurisdiction. Release all relevant video body cam surveillance, operational footage under a clear evidentiary timeline, a public accounting of the rules of engagement, and a public accounting of who authorized the operation and the crowd control response. Because defense shots is not a magic phrase that dissolves oversight. A U.S. citizen is dead. The public video creates immediate factual tension with the official story. And instead of transparency, we got narrative certainty and motive assignment in the first wave of statements. That is the indictment. A federal operation that keeps producing death, unrest, and conflicting accounts, while the institutions involved behave like the goal is to win the news cycle, not establish the truth. So here's the question I want you to answer in the comments, and take this seriously. What is the minimum standard of evidence that this country needs to require before we finally accept an official use of force narrative as fact? And who should control the investigation when federal agents are the ones who pulled the trigger? Now, I know that usually this is the part where we ask you to like the video and to subscribe to the channel. And yes, that always does help. But we need you to understand that the reason we do this is because we need to make sure that we are all aware that these stories are shared with people, especially with those who believe that it still doesn't affect them. Because eventually, it always does. My name is Michael St. Gregory. This is Raw America.